At age 10, Rainer Unwin was probably the youngest paid editorial consultant in the history of publishing. His father, Stanley, gave him $1 each to comment on manuscripts of prospective children's books. In 1936, a fantasy novel was submitted to Allen and Unwin by an Oxford professor of Anglo-Saxon, J.R.R. Tolkien. Rainer declared it good and added with the confidence of youth that it should appeal to all children between the ages of 5 and 9. The Hobbit appeared in 1937 and was immediately successful. Since then, it has been translated into at least 38 languages and has sold upwards of 35 million copies. Naturally, Allen and Unwin pressed Tolkien for a follow-up. The Hobbit had been based on bedtime stories he told his children, but the sequel proved harder to compose. His faculty duties delayed him, but there was an inner drive as well. Tolkien felt compelled to chart an entire, densely populated world in which hobbits manifest humble heroism in the face of horrendous dangers. This tale, as Tolkien puts it in his foreword to the second edition, grew in the telling, over the 12 years he took to write it. When, in 1950, he sent the manuscript of The Lord of the Rings, hereafter Rings, to the publisher, it was no longer a children's book. It was an epic. Rainer Unwin had grown up in the meantime, and as an editor at Allen and Unwin, was asked again to evaluate Tolkien's manuscript. When printed, it would run to about 1,000 pages. Rainer Unwin calculated that with a moderate success, the book would probably lose £1,000, a considerably greater sum at the time than it is now. It was, he reckoned, a big risk. His father wrote to him, "If you believe it is a work of genius, then you may lose £1,000. Though Tolkien considered Rings one large novel, as I shall hear, Rainer insisted on printing it in 3 volumes to cover the high costs. The Fellowship of the Ring, hereafter Fellowship, and The Two Towers, hereafter Towers, appeared in 1954, and The Return of the King, hereafter King, in 1955. Rings became the firm's greatest publishing success, with more than 80 million copies sold and no end in sight. Like its predecessor, it had been translated into dozens of languages. The Unwins had gambled on the novel and won spectacularly. Despite the worldwide popularity of the books, though, a film version was seen as a nearly impossible project. Rings was simply too long, and the monsters and creatures depicted too difficult to create with special effects. A number of projects to film it died in the planning stages, and a 1978 animated version of the first half failed to please critics or audiences. Some years later, the digital revolution occurred, and special effects technology reached a point where Jurassic dinosaurs or morphing Terminators could be convincingly portrayed on the screen. Sequels and series gave Hollywood some of its biggest hits as the age of the franchise film arrived. Peter Jackson, a New Zealand director known mainly to fans of low-budget splatter movies, decided that Tolkien's novel was the ideal way to indulge his passion for fantasy and special effects. Through a remarkable combination of determination and luck, that decision resulted in a film released, like the book, in 3 parts: Fellowship 2001, Towers 2002, Return 2003. No Hollywood film had ever been conceived on such a grand scale, and no producer had ever taken the risk of making all the parts of a series at once without waiting to gauge the success of the first one. Rings' enormous success meant that, like a great rock falling into a lake, the ripples that it caused spread far, and they will continue to do so for years to come.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.